In this screencast, I'll show you how to set up an AI-powered data analysis environment on Windows. I normally use a Mac, so there might be some weirdness here when I try to navigate myself around Windows using a Mac keyboard and a Windows computer. This is also a remote desktop connection, so not my real computer. So it might be that I accidentally hit Mac keyboard shortcuts and do something with my own computer instead of this remote accessed computer. So the computer that we have is pretty basic desktop computer. So there's 16 gigs of memory and there's no GPU to speak of. So we will be running a large language model locally with the CPU. That's probably going to be very slow, but that is something that a lot of people would have to deal with if they run this locally. But if you do data analysis, then the speed mightn't actually matter that much. For example, if you classify survey responses that you have in your Excel sheet using a model that runs on your local computer, you can just leave it running overnight. So if it takes a minute to respond, then it might not be such a big deal. So, and I'm also using Gemini here because we need to do some things in PowerShell to set up things. And the reason why we need to do it in shell instead of just point and click is that I don't have administrative rights to this computer. So this is like the worst case scenario for installing anything. It's a shared computer, fairly tight security policy, and no admin rights. So I will have to install everything in my home directory. And if you have admin rights to your computer when you install this and you want to install things for all the users, which is a lot simpler, I'll explain the differences as we go. And the overall plan is here in Notepad. So we're gonna install first LM Studio, then we're gonna install model, we're gonna test a few settings, and then we install Node.js. So this is the hardest part because we need to install it using PowerShell and just copying the files into the right place, because install it with the installer would require administrative rights, which I don't have. Then the rest should be fairly easy. Gemini, we install already Node, then we test it, then we install the Positron data science editors. That's for R and Python coding. It's like a more modern version of RStudio built on Visual Studio Code. Then we install R, and then we install Python, and we test a few things. And I marked here install location because I need to install Node.js manually, just copy the files. So I'll mark where I put them here in my notes. So let's get started, and we don't need to know the details of the computer anymore. So let's just go to install LM Studio. And now, because I don't have admin rights, I will just install it for myself. And now I will make note of this install path because I will put the Node.js into the same place. It can go anywhere on the computer, but I think it's nice to just have everything in one place. So that's where I install all the programs. So we're going to install it. It's now installed and we run it. So now that we have LM Studio installed, the next step is to install a model. And you install models from the search. And what I recommend is to pick here, have this only include staff picks that will fit on my device, this to be on, because it may ensures that you only load models or download models that actually work on your computer. And this is important because if you try to load a model that's too large, it either fails to load or it can try to load and then it crashes your computer or makes your computer like completely unresponsive because it starts to use a hard drive to extend the memory, which is really slow. We're gonna take a model from the Qwen 3 family, and we will go for something small because this computer is not very powerful, and also because the internet connection is pretty slow. And let's see what we have. And I want to have this let's see, non-thinking model. We want to have a hybrid model instead of a non-thinking. So Qwen 3 4B, this is a hybrid model, so we can enable and disable thinking. So if we want to learn how these models work and play around, then this hybrid model will be useful. So we're going to download it, and if you want to have a smaller variant of the model, you can pick the variant here. So there are different quantizations, and quantization basically means that it's the model weights, the matrices, the numbers are stored with less precision. So if you have less precision, then the model quality is a bit weaker, but then again it runs a bit faster and it fits into smaller space. So we'll take the one that is recommended. If the only reason why you would ever want to pick something that is not recommended is if you have a very, very small memory in your computer, like if you have something like 8 gigabytes and you are running something else except in addition to LM Studio, then you might go for even more smaller model, like you might go for the 1.7b, and then here there is this model is even more aggressively quantized, so it is like 30 to 40% smaller than the default model. But we go for the 4 billion parameter model because I think that's going to work pretty well on this computer, at least on a reasonable speed, and we'll start the download. All right, the model is now downloaded, and we will just click on using chat, so that starts loading the model. And what we'll do now, we'll test the model, and then we'll adjust some settings and just see if we can break the model. So we're gonna create a new chat, and let's switch thinking off because I want to just see how it works. So let's do hi, and let's see if it responds. Okay, and we're gonna start a new chat and just play around with the settings a bit. So we go for new chat, and let's do this small exercise of checking how the temperature affects the response. So all right, so let's see the default settings, what it does. And it's okay speed. So I think this is about the size of the model that this computer can handle. I could go for the 8 billion parameter model, but it would probably be substantially slower. If I wanted to do like offline data analysis where I code data, or like serial responses on my computer, then the speed wouldn't matter because I would be able to just run it overnight. Okay, so this is what it does. And if we want to make it a bit more creative, we can adjust the temperature to increase the randomness of the response. So we're gonna take disable these, and this top case sampling means how many different tokens it considers when it picks the token that it produces next. So we're gonna put it to 50, and then let's increase the temperature to let's go 1.5 and see, and we're gonna branch the discussion and regenerate the response. So now it should be a lot more creative, but still stay coherent. Hard work and creativity. Okay, I like that. So this is it's not much different. Let's ramp it up, and we're gonna branch again. So we're gonna set temperature to 3. So larger number is more randomness, and top K means how many different tokens it considers. So let's go with temperature 3. We can see a bit more creativity, like vibrant national Independence Day traditions. Sauna culture, blueberries, and modern social media presence. That's a interesting list of 3. And we can see now that it's starting to break apart a bit. Like this is not grammatically correct, and that's also not grammatically correct. If we ramp up this to let's say 10, and let's put 200 here, so it considers a wide variety of tokens and picks the response randomly, this is probably going to entirely break the model. So it starts to, yeah. So it no longer can even write grammatically correct things. So when you increase the randomness, what you can do is to make it more creative, make it more kind of surprising what it produces. But when you increase the randomness too much, then the model loses all coherence. So if you put the temperature to 0, then it means that there's like not much randomness, and we can stop responding if we put this top k sampling to 1. So that means that it only considers the most likely token. And if we branch the discussion, we generate the response. You can see that lakes, forests, traditions, music, this is pretty boring. So it kind of like states the most obvious thing. And another interesting thing is that if we remove randomness altogether, if we branch again and we regenerate, it will regenerate the same response. So if you think about a model that is completely deterministic, it's pretty boring. Like you can think about a model that is trained to do jokes. If the model always does the same joke, then it's not a very good joke model. Okay, that is set up, and we need to we're gonna reset all this stuff and reset to defaults. And the next thing that we do is to go to the developer, and we launch the server. So this means that this LM Studio can now be accessed from other programs, and we leave it running, and we'll later access LM Studio from Positron editor. Okay, so this is now done. So next is installing Node.js, and this is where I probably need Gemini's help. And we're gonna go to Node.js, and this is like an execution environment that you need to run certain software. So there are 3 ways to install it. This is if you have Docker or some other environment. We don't, so we're not gonna do that. Or even if we did, I wouldn't know if this computer has one. This is the easiest. If you have admin rights, you pick Windows installer, but I don't have admin rights, so I have to install it manually. And what I do here is that I open the standalone binary, and this is like just the files of Node.js, and then I will need to put them somewhere where the computer can access them. And then I will now open a new tab or new window. So let's do new file explorer. Yes, this one. And then I go to my install location. So I just copy that. And then I create a new folder called Node.js. So this is, you can create this anywhere on a computer, but because it installed LM Studio here, I'm just gonna install everything here. So it's gonna be Node.js. And then this is the Node.js files. I'll choose them all, and I copy them here. And again, this is something, if you don't have admin rights, you need to just copy this. Otherwise, you would just run this installer and it installs everything. All right, it's here. And the next thing is that we need to set path. And the path is a variable that the computer stores that tells the computer where to find programs. And I'm not very good with using Windows, so I will now use Gemini to help me out. And I will tell it that I'm running Windows 10, and then I have Node.js in this location, and how do I set the path? And I've tried this before, and Gemini has this option of thinking and fast. And I found that thinking is much better for this, because the fast gives me kind of like things that might work if I have admin rights. But yeah, and the reason why the backslash direction was incorrect is that I don't know how to type the correct direction on a non-Mac keyboard. So my Mac keyboard wouldn't type it properly. So we do Windows key and then we type env, and this requires admin rights, so we can do that. And okay, option number one didn't work, and let's tell it that this didn't work. And the reason why I'm doing this on camera with Gemini is that how you set the path might depend on the Windows version and what kind of user rights you have to the computer. I'm just kind of like showing the process how you can fix this yourself. And yeah, so this tells you how to figure it out yourself. We're gonna use PowerShell, and so this script writes the path to our environment. And let's do PowerShell. And this is typically when you work with large language models to troubleshoot computer issues. Using the PowerShell or terminal in Mac is very handy because you can just copy paste what you see from text, and then the model understands text and can help you. So we're gonna copy it here, and okay, and now we can do you must close and reopen the command prompt or code editor. So we're gonna open it, and then we do PowerShell again, not there, and then type node v. That will tell us the Node.js version. So that is now installed. So we have now Node.js installed, and the next thing that we need to do is to install Gemini CLI. And it's important that you close the PowerShell and reopen for two reasons. One is that the path only takes effect after you relaunch the terminal or whatever command prompt, whatever you call it. And the second one is that you want to ensure that it works after restarting, because we want to have the path set correctly also in Positron. And if we have to fix it here every time we start, then it's not a very usable solution. So that works. Then we go Gemini CLI, and there is an installation instruction here. So we will do this install globally with npm. So this is with Node.js, and then we paste it here. And this is something that happens because of the security policy of the computer. So what we now need to do is we tell Gemini that I am trying to install Gemini. I get this error, and then it will fix it. So again, this is like a Windows Power user might remember what settings they need to change, but I'm not one of those, so I'll just do this. And again, this is like I would use the thinking model here, so that the model gives us the best quality responses. It's really frustrating if the model gives us a lot of different things to try, and then it fails. So we want the model to spend a bit more time trying to figure out what will be the best solution for us, given all the data that we have provided. And permanent fix, try this first. All right, we're gonna try that first, and then so that allows us to install, and we do yes, but not yes always. And then we run that again. And now it should work. Yes, now there's another security issue or policy issue. So as I said, this is like a worst case scenario, because this is a computer class computer, so it's very constrained what you can do with this computer. But if you can get something installed on this kind of computer, then it's going to be much easier, because if you have your own computer that you are running, then the security policy might not be as strict as on this computer. And now it gives us another command that changes the installation policy. So you might want to pause the video and read all the descriptions. So I've done this before, so I don't stop and read these. We're gonna do this one because we want to be able to run the Gemini directly instead of using this Gemini. We don't want to have this problem. So we'll just do this security bypass. Yes. And then we'll install. And now Gemini CLI is installed. The next thing is that we do is that we try it. So we do Gemini. All right, now it's loaded and it asks us to log in. And we're gonna log in with Google because I have the Gemini Pro account. And we're gonna use Microsoft Edge because that is what we have here. And we're gonna then authenticate, and that's done. And now we know that it works, but there's now a bit of a problem. And the problem is that we are now in our home data folder. And if you're in a folder, then Gemini CLI has access to all files in that folder. So before we start testing it, we will create a new folder and we'll change to that folder. But before I do that, I'll adjust some settings. So the first setting that you type /settings, the first setting that we change is preview features, and this allows you to run the latest models. So we're gonna switch that to true, and this gives us access to Gemini 3. And then we do model, and Gemini 3 is now enabled. There used to be a wait list, so if you don't have it here, then it might tell you that you need to go to a wait list. But I'm not sure if the wait list is valid anymore. It was valid when Gemini 3 was launching. So we're gonna go for the Pro models, and this is just for testing and showing how it works. If you use this for data analysis, then I would recommend that you go for the auto, because that saves you tokens. And I pay per month for this Gemini, and that means that there's like a quota that I get to use it. And if I run over my quota, then it automatically switches me to the flashlight model, which is the cheapest model. And I don't want to spend all my expensive model time for simple problems, and I would go for auto. But let's go for Gemini 3 Pro, just because I want to ensure that all these demos work that I'm gonna do with single shot instead of trying and fixing. So we go for that, and then we quit. And now we need to do another new folder. So we will go to we have this PC, and this is my data. And well, I'm gonna create a new folder, and let's call it test to delete me. I'm just gonna call it delete me because then I will remember to delete it later. So this is just for testing. And we're gonna then change to that directory. So we do cd change directory, and then we can copy here. There is, or we can just double click and then here copy address, and then we paste it here. And now we are in the test folder, and the test folder is empty. So we know that now it's safe to run Gemini here because Gemini can't read anything. And then we'll run Gemini again to see how it works. And now it's all set up, and then we can ask it to do things for us. So let's make a fun game. Program a small game for me. It'll probably present me a plan first, and then after the plan, it'll just implement the program. It's probably going to make some kind of space shooter or a worm game, a snake game. Let's see. Snake game. And then it tells about the implementation details, and it runs in a browser. And that's like the simplest thing to do. And let's say that go for it. And then it'll program it for us. You can see here that it's going to start writing files here, and it asks for our permission to write pretty soon. So it'll design the game and then ask for permission to write the file for the game. Okay, so now it's asking permissions, and we say that always allow, and this is only for this session because we want it to be able to edit the file. If you were doing something that is, let's say, more serious, and you actually knew how to program yourself, then you might want to review the changes. So you would review what it wants to do and just allow once so that you understand the changes that it does. This will be important like in bigger projects, but it's kind of like wipe coding, we just always allow. And that it created the 3 files. And then it's checking, ls is just checking if files exist. We always allow, so it validated that it actually was able to write the files. And then it tells that double click index.html, and that opens the game. Okay, so this is the game, and I'm gonna reload it. So this is a snake game, as the snake grows when I eat these apples. The snake is too fast. Make the game easier. You could also tell it to make it multiplayer or make it and now it says that now it changes the settings here for the game, and then when we reload it, then it's a bit slower, I think. Yeah, it feels that it's easier to play now. All right, so this is Gemini CLI, and now we're gonna quit it. And we close the PowerShell, we don't need that anymore. And then we'll close these. So now we are test by coding game, we're here. And now we install the Positron editor, and we take a new tab, we take Positron, and let's install it. So this is just a basic installer. It tells you that we need to do things before we install Positron. So it tells us to install Python and R. We will install Positron first because then we can use Gemini CLI inside Positron to help us troubleshoot any installation issues if they arise. So we're gonna download it, and if we don't have R or Python installed, then this doesn't really do anything for us. It's just like a text editor, but we can't run any code because we don't have an environment installed. And we take the user level install. If you have admin rights, then you can take the system level, but I'm only have user level. So we're gonna download it and then run it. And now it's downloaded, and we wait for it to become available to us to open file, yeah. And we accept, I've read this before. And then it installs, now it installs in the same location as everything. And we install, and we can have a desktop icon, I like it, on Windows. And now it installs and we have to wait. Okay, it's installed and we launch it. So this is the Positron main window, and we need to open a folder where we work in, and I'm just gonna open the same folder that we were using before, and it tries to start a console, probably R, but we don't have R installed, so it's not gonna do anything. And we're gonna open a folder because you always need to work in a folder, and the folder that we have is going to be the test to delete me. So we open it, and yes, I trust because I'm the author. And then we can just delete this stuff. We don't need the game anymore. It's not that great of a game, and we delete permanently. And there is no session running because I don't have R installed. I just wanted to first test that I have Gemini CLI working here. So the terminal is where you run the Gemini, and I'm gonna move this terminal to the right secondary sidebar here. The reason why I'm moving it there is that if I want to do some coding, I want to see the file here on the left and then Gemini on the right. So I discuss about the code with Gemini, and we can just type Gemini and hope that it works, and it doesn't. So this is the reason we need to why I want to test this first. So there is an issue with the path, and then we go back to Gemini, the browser, and then I tell that I installed Positron and I'm using terminal in that software. I get this error. We copy, then we paste, and then it tells us how to fix it. So the problem here is that because we install it manually by copying the Node.js files just on the computer, we need to adjust it. We need to tell both the PowerShell and Positron where to find Gemini. If you run the installer for Node.js, then you don't need to go through any of this stuff. Okay, so now it tells us which commands to run. We're just gonna copy paste. Let's say that let's proceed step by step. Because we don't want it to write a lot of instructions if the first step fails. So this will be setting the paths is what makes this complicated. It'll probably ask us to next check with PowerShell because it was working there, and then where the path is, and then to fix it in the terminal. Yes, we do that, and that works. The funny thing is that it says PowerShell here because these are PowerShell commands, but we actually run them inside Positron and not in PowerShell. Then we copy paste. We copy paste here what we see. Now it's telling us to install, but we have it working in PowerShell. So this is the PowerShell and it works. So we tell it that it works in PowerShell, but not in Positron. And why we want to install Gemini CLI or get it to working first is again that then we can use Gemini CLI to troubleshoot things inside Positron if any things require troubleshooting. So let's do that. We run it, and then we do Gemini. Now it finds it because it's taking its time to load, and we can do that, and we'll tell it that it works. Let's close Positron. And let's open Positron again and make sure that Gemini works. So Gemini seems to work. So we fixed the path once, and that solved the problem. So if it didn't work, then you can just move things from just type here and type commands and then give the error message to Gemini or whatever large language model you use. All right, the next thing that we do is that we install an extension. So there is an extension, and let's make that a bit bigger. So there is an extension for Gemini. So we do Gemini CLI, and I'm not sure if it works on this computer, but we're gonna install it, and this allows you to highlight code and then see Gemini CLI can see the highlights, and we pick yes. Yeah, and enable. So probably it thinks that we are running on Visual Studio Code, and for that reason it doesn't install automatically. We can enable it. So we install it manually and then we enable it, and then now we can highlight. Now Gemini CLI knows which file we have open in Positron, which is useful. Like if you are troubleshooting something, then you want to make sure that you and the AI are both working on the same file. All right, so that is now set up, and we have on our to-do list, we have Positron test Gemini CLI in Positron terminal works. Then we install R, and the way we just go here is that we go install, and then there's R setup, and we just go to the R website. We go R for Windows, and this is what you want to do, install R for the first time. Yes, so we install R, and then we download R for Windows, and we install it only for one user, and then we try to start an R session inside Positron, and then we'd use Gemini CLI to do a regression analysis demo for us. So it goes to local folder because we don't have admin rights, and we're going to install everything. We don't want to have a desktop shortcut because I never run R directly. I run it only through Positron. And now it's installed. And now we test it. So we start a new session and we pick R. It's installed already, and that means that we could have used it without installing. But let's try to run let's just start a new session. And we go with R. There's also Python installed, and then we can ask Gemini here that how would we use R if it's installed on our own computer. But most people who install this probably have admin rights, and let's ask how do we use a custom installation of R. And let's ask Gemini how we would use this installation, assuming that I don't have R installed already on the computer. So how can I use R located in instead of the system-wide version? So this would be something that you would do if you install R on your home folder on a computer that doesn't have R. And I really like now this makes troubleshooting a lot easier because Gemini can access our computer now, and we allow it to read what's in that folder, and it finds that this is the things that we installed ourselves, and then it tells us how to use it. So these AI tools are really nice because you can ask the AI tool itself how it should be used. And this is like how to add it to path. And I need to tell it that I want to use it in Positron. And we allow it to read that file. So that's our setting file. And we just allow it once because we don't want it to be able to read arbitrary files on our computer. But again, this is something that if R works like it does work like here, then you don't need to go through any of this stuff. But this is just like to show what I would do if I wanted to run the R from my home folder. Okay, add this to your settings. We can ask, so we can ask the AI to do the change. So it's going to add the R session, the R that we just installed into the settings. And this is the reason why you want to have the AI installed first. And we allow it to edit. And now we restart Positron. And I can just delete this session and start session. Let's go that one. Okay. And then I can ask, I can do terminal again and then do Gemini. So I have R running from my user profile, but it was easy. I was already on this computer, so setting it up was kind of like just to show the worst case. So now we test it. So our plan was that we have install test by doing a regression analysis. So we do program or demonstrate regression in R, visualize the model. And it'll do an R file that loads some demo data or generates some data, runs a regression, and then visualizes the results. And it allows us to execute it. We always allow. And this can happen if, again, the path is not correct. And it wrote the file now, and we're okay. So we always allow writing R files into our folder. And then it asks, it tells us that we install R. Well, we have multiple copies of R installed. We can just tell it to run R script, and let's tell that you can find it from here. So that it uses the installation directory. So we install everything here. Run it for me using R found at. And it tries to find R script from that folder. So we allow it to always find stuff. Yes, and now it finds the R script command that allows it to run R. Let's ask, are there any workarounds? I know that it can run it. So that sometimes the AI kind of like is overly cautious. So we can just go here also and just click on run, and it runs the R file. But I want to use the AI to run it because it's important that the AI can run things itself, because then it can do a test, do an R file and test it, and then fix it. So it was able to run it. And then I can ask it to remember where R is located. And it has this Gemini.md file where it stores what it calls memories. And then it remembers, where the R executable is located. And now I don't have to tell it anymore when I start R again. Of course, like if you have it installed as an administrator, then it's available system-wide, and you would need to tell Gemini where to locate it. But this is like a worst case install. All right, so we were able to do it, and here's the regression plot, so the regression line, and that's the R code, so it generates some synthetic data, and then run a regression analysis for us. All right, so the next thing is Python, and you can install this. The way to install Python is to do goes to Store and Microsoft Store, and then we search for Python, and let's go 3.13, the most recent one, and we get it. So we install it, and this is almost certainly already installed on the system. And we have this now done, this example, so we do clear. So we clear the context window so that we can start over. Okay, and then we could ask Gemini to locate Python, but it can probably do it itself. But if it doesn't, if it can't find it, you can just tell that I install it through Microsoft Store, and find the version that I install through Microsoft Store. So we can do that as an exercise. So let's say that I just installed Python using and then it locates where the Python is. And again, this is like normally it's installed in a system wide, and it just knows where it is. But I want to specifically find it just to use that specific version. So we don't need these anymore, so we can delete and then do the final demo. And it checks that it works. And this is where I just installed it. So this is my local folder, and then we can ask that to remember it. So it writes it into memory again, so we don't need to tell it anymore. But this is, again, you don't normally need to do this because you would just install it system-wide and it just works. Yes, so we have Python installed now, and the final thing in our plan was to program a connection to local LLM, and then we can tell it that I have LM Studio running, code a small script in Python that connects to LM Studio, sends a test prompt, and streams the response. You would normally want to test that connections work, and this would be useful for data analysis, like if you have some survey responses or some short text fragments to code, or you can also do even like a crawler to get, for example, news items from any news website, and then use the local LLM to classify them. And yeah, now we can tell that run it for me so I can see that it works. We can also just open it here and then press this to run it. But what I wanted to do is to test it, because it uses the OpenAI library, which I don't have installed on my computer, and it would just produce an error if I try to run it. And for this reason, you want to have the model code, test, and then fix, and then when it's fixed, then you start running it yourself. So we always allow using pip, which is a package installer for Python, and we allow, and then it installs stuff for us. And if we open LM Studio, we can see here that the model is generating now. So this is the, it's generating here. So this comes from our own LLM Studio. And it's thinking because it's we didn't disable thinking. So this kind of setup would allow you to, first of all, code any data that you have on your computer for free, and also avoid the privacy problems of sending research data to Claude or Anthropic or OpenAI or Google, which typically is not allowed by GDPR regulation. I should have asked it to do something shorter because this model is really slow on this computer. Okay, I think this is enough. We can just kill it, and we can see that it stopped. All right, so that completes our setup. So we installed LM Studio, a model, we tested settings, then we installed Node.js, we installed Gemini CLI, we tested by coding in game, then we installed Positron, we tested Gemini CLI in terminal, we installed R, we told Positron to use our R installation even if it was present on the computer, and then we installed Python, and we told Positron to our Gemini to use our Python instead of the one built in the system. So what makes this process challenging is there are like three things. One is that there's got a lot of small software components to install. The second one is that your computer might have security policies, and you need to adjust them to be able to run Gemini CLI. And the third one is that you need to set the path variable to point to correct places so that the Gemini can be found in the terminal and Gemini can find the tools that you have installed. Fortunately, the process can be simplified quite a lot when you use PowerShell. Then you just have Gemini or some other LLM running and use the maximum thinking, and then you just tell what you see in terminal when you have an error, and then the AI will tell you how to fix it. So it's kind of like your own IT support. So this concludes the setup, and hope you'll find it useful.